Welcome back to today's Explainer. Whenever we think of global trade, we usually just picture these massive ships moving seamlessly across the oceans, right? But beneath that visible surface lies a highly sophisticated, completely hidden underworld. Today, we're looking at the ghost fleets, and we're going to decode the exact mechanisms of corporate silence and modern piracy that actually drive them.
Okay, let's dive right into this. We are looking at a high-stakes criminal world operating behind an absolute wall of silence. That old image of rugged outcasts acting in chaotic bursts of violence on the fringes of society? Yeah, you can toss that out because it's entirely outdated. Today, we're dealing with highly organized, heavily funded syndicates. We're talking about groups managing massive shipments of sanctioned crude oil, orchestrating illegal fishing fleets that literally deplete entire marine ecosystems, and running incredibly sophisticated smuggling operations. And their absolute greatest weapon isn't artillery, it's silence.
Section 1. Uncovering the ghost fleets. Now, what's really interesting here is the brutal contrast between our cultural imagination and cold, hard reality. Traditional piracy brings to mind lawless, rugged individuals operating in total chaos, relying on brute force to hijack cargo. But modern piracy, it's defined by corporate silence. Today's illicit operators are shielded by thick layers of legal entities. They are deeply embedded in international networks that actually rival multinational corporations, using top-tier logistics and financial maneuvering. Instead of cutlasses and speedboats, they deploy maritime lawyers, accountants, and complex holding companies. They don't even need to physically storm a vessel if they can just manipulate the entire global supply chain right from the safety of a high-rise office building. So, what exactly is a ghost fleet? Well, it's an illicit network of vessels functioning as a high-stakes criminal enterprise shielded by complex corporate power structures. And to be clear, these aren't just rogue ships temporarily flicking off their transponders to sneak past a coastal patrol. No, they are a permanent, highly organized fleet. Their invisibility cloak is basically constructed out of legal paperwork, shell companies, and deliberate administrative opacity. A ghost vessel might be physically tracked on a satellite radar, sure, but it remains legally untraceable, completely insulated from any kind of real-world accountability. Section 2. Mechanics of Modern Piracy. Let's see how this builds step by step, because this is the precise logistical procedure these syndicates use to vanish. Step 1. Exploit complex legal architectures. Criminals navigate the tricky web of international maritime law by relying on flags of convenience. They'll register a ship in a jurisdiction with notoriously lax oversight, but the managing company is based in a totally different country. This instantly splinters the legal jurisdiction and muddies the waters. Step 2. Erect a wall of corporate silence. They use nested layers of ownership, anonymous shell companies, nominee directors, the whole shebang. This corporate layering makes it virtually impossible to trace the ultimate beneficial owner, the person actually profiting from the crime. And step 3. Operate on scene. Once that administrative camouflage is fully dialed in, the physical ships go to work. They use AIS spoofing to manipulate their digital tracking data. They conduct these mid-ocean, ship-to-ship transfers of stolen or sanctioned goods completely under the cover of darkness, and they seamlessly evade international authorities who are just bogged down by impenetrable mountains of paperwork. Which leads us to a pretty massive question. How does a massive criminal fleet actually hide in plain sight? Think about the sheer physical scale of a modern cargo ship or a crude oil tanker. It's essentially a skyscraper lying on its side, carrying hundreds of thousands of tons of cargo. You can't exactly hide something that massive under a tarp or park it in a secluded little cove. You don't use physical camouflage, you use bureaucratic camouflage. And that is the vital bridge connecting the physical operations out on the dark ocean directly to those brightly lit, shadowy corporate boardrooms. Section 3. The Corporate Wall of Silence. And this brilliantly illustrates how this calculated lack of transparency serves as their ultimate weapon. By burying ownership records in jurisdictions that actively refuse to share financial information, the corporate entity acts as an impenetrable shield. These syndicates engage in what's called jurisdictional arbitrage. They literally shop around the globe specifically for the weakest regulatory frameworks and the highest levels of financial secrecy. So, when international investigators try to trace the origin of a ghost fleet or follow the money from its illegal cargo, they don't find a pirate kingpin. Nope, they hit a dead end at a post office box in some tax haven. It is a meticulously maintained void of information. In essence, the corporate structure is protecting the illicit operator, prioritizing legal opacity and financial secrecy over international security. Section 4. The High-Stakes Global Impact. So the absolutely crucial point here is that this corporate opacity turns localized maritime crime into a high-stakes global crisis. We are not just talking about isolated thefts or a localized disruption in some distant shipping lane. Because these fleets are so intimately tied into the global financial system, they actively undermine international trade, severely distort maritime markets, and completely bypass global security measures. By allowing these ghost fleets to operate unchecked behind their corporate shields, a massive shadow economy thrives. And this shadow economy funnels unregulated, untaxed capital directly into criminal hands. That money frequently finances other illicit activities, everything from weapons proliferation and human trafficking to propping up the economies of rogue sanctioned states. Plus, these aging, often entirely uninsured vessels pose catastrophic environmental risks as they move millions of barrels of illicit oil outside of any standard safety regulations. It systematically destabilizes legitimate commerce and security on a global scale.
As we wrap up, I want to leave you with this final lingering thought. If corporate silence is what truly protects modern piracy, who holds the power to finally break it? Is it maritime law enforcement, international regulators, or does the responsibility ultimately lie within the corporate world itself, to finally strip away the administrative opacity that allows these criminal networks to thrive? It's a high-stakes puzzle, for sure, and how we solve it is absolutely going to determine the future of our global oceans.